Shabbat shalom again. Shalom. I am pretty confident you all know I'm a big sports fan. Really? Shocking, I know. But one sport that I do not follow on a regular basis is soccer. Right? I essentially follow soccer during the World Cup for both the men's and women's, and I'll follow it a little bit during the Olympics. Right, so that's like, once a year, give or take, once every other year, or so. But right now we're in the middle of the World Cup, right? Hopefully you all know that as well. And I have been following the World Cup very closely. And so my kids asked me a few weeks back when the World Cup began, who are you going to root for in the World Cup? Beyond the USA, of course, right? We were all hoping for the USA, and they played terribly the last game. Sad, we move on. So my kids asked me, who are you going to root for? And I said, well, I've decided the way I'm going to root for every game in the World Cup is going to be whichever country is the least anti-Semitic between the two. Right. And my kids ever since have been teasing me about this because there have been some truly impossible choices during some of the matches, right, throughout the World Cup. And I came to the realization pretty quickly that there are far more anti-Semitic countries, right, than there are not as anti-Semitic countries throughout the World Cup. And I tell you this story as it relates directly to where we are in our Jewish calendar right now and the particular Haftarah we're about to hear chanted this morning. We are in what's known as the 3 weeks. These are 3 weeks of admonition. They're the 3 weeks that began with the 17th of Tammuz, where the walls of Jerusalem were breached, and it all leads up to next week on Wednesday night and Thursday, when we have Tisha B'Av, right, the 9th of Av, which is when our first temple and then again our second temple were destroyed. And these 3 weeks are meant to be 3 weeks where we're essentially in a period of mourning. And the Haftarot that are chosen are meant to be ones that are to admonish us, to explain to us, why is it that our temple was destroyed? Why did we lose Jerusalem? Why did we lose our promised land in these moments, right? And we think about it, and the Haftarah that's chosen for this morning is an exact continuation from last week's from the book of Jeremiah. And Jeremiah tells us of all the things that we were doing wrong with worshiping idols and all these terrible things, and that's why the temple was destroyed. And it's pretty negative and pretty much a downer, and makes it feel like the walls are literally caving in on us, right? As the walls are about to cave in, going back thousands of years in Jerusalem. And yet, right, the Haftarah for this morning, the rabbis specifically then decide to end the Haftarah on a positive note, even during these 3 weeks. There's two different options. One's in chapter 3, the other one's in chapter 4. We're going to be hearing the one from chapter 4 this morning. But it specifically ends on a positive note, saying there still is hope for us. And there's still hope for our people, no matter what else is happening around us. And our world right now, right, it feels like those walls are caving in on us all the time. Every day, every week, right, there's a new anti-Semitic story that you can read in the news, and so on and so forth. But, right, there still can be hope in our world. And as I've gone through watching the World Cup, I've actually learned of some hopeful moments as well. A country that I never thought I would be rooting for example, is Norway, right? Norway is not necessarily anti-Semitic or not anti-Semitic. I think I haven't heard much one way or the other from their government. But I learned that their star of their team, Irving Haaland, right, chose to host Omer Shem Tov, who was one of the hostages, because he found out that he was Omer Shem Tov's favorite player. Right? Omer Shem Tov's held hostage by Hamas for hundreds and hundreds of days, and he hosts a former hostage, right, to show that he cared about what was going on to our people, right? We know, of course, about Argentina, right? And their entire team has been incredibly supportive of our people and the state of Israel, to the point of at the match the other day, there were Argentinian fans actually holding up Israeli flags, right? So there are hopeful moments even during a time when it feels like the walls might be caving in on us. And my hope and prayer for us, not just as we hear the Haftarah this morning, and not just as we go through this particular 3 weeks, is that we're reminded that our Jewish calendar and the rabbis particularly remind us in every step of the way that even though there have been times in our history, like the destructions of the temples, right, as we commemorate Tisha B'Av, there have been these terrible moments that we always come out on the other side with hope. We always come out on the other side ready to move forward, 1 foot at a time. And so even in this moment that may feel like the walls are caving in on us, we should be reminded that there is always still hope. And there is always time for us to come out together, and that there will be a better day tomorrow, just